Hello TikTokers, I am the Christian Relationship Counsellor and I just really wanted to talk about whether or not we as wives or partners should submit to our husbands. Well, I think the long and short of it is, does he deserve you? Does he deserve to be submitted to? Why, that might sound a bit facetious, but that is what it's about. It's not a situation where just because you're a man or a husband, it means that your wife has to submit to you. And some people quote from Ephesians 6 and say, it says quite clearly that a woman should submit to her husband. Now, it also says quite clearly that a woman, that a husband should treat his wife as he would himself. Now, you've got some people, some husbands or spouses, who do not treat themselves very well. They have low self-esteem, they have low value. So if you have a husband like that, are you meant to submit to him? No, you're not. Because the thing is with that scripture, it's quite vague, but it does kind of substantiate it by saying that a man will love his body, therefore he should love his wife like the same way he loves his body. So he's not talking about situations where a man has been traumatized or a man has no self-love. He's talking about healthy relationships where a man is whole and a man is godly and God-fearing. And in those kind of situations, if the man is God-fearing, then a woman should submit to her husband. So what have we got here? We've got Ephesians 5:21. Submit to one another out of reverence to Christ. And that is to show, when you show reverence to Christ, it's like you bow down to Christ. You are obeying his laws. You are following his rules. But it says, before a wife can submit to her husband, he has to submit to Christ, i.e. follow Christ's teaching, and love his wife as Christ loved the church. That's Ephesians 5:25. Husbands ought to love their wives as they love their own bodies. So to love as Jesus loved means a husband's focus primarily on his wife's needs. That's what it should be. A husband would primarily be focused on his wife's needs as opposed to his own needs. But you'll find, in today's times, we're living in a narcissistic world. So most people are thinking about their own needs. So if her husband is not showing Christ-like qualities, should she submit to him? Well, it says no. If you think about the story about Abigail and Nabal, it's clear that she defied Nabal and she actually betrayed him because he wasn't honouring Christ. He wasn't following God's law. He wasn't showing Christ-like qualities. And God supported her in that because he struck him down 10 days later. Because when the thing is that he was behaving really selfishly and greedily. So David had been looking after him and doing quite well and, helping him look after the sheep and stuff. And all he said is like, give me some food, give me something out of your millions, just so the shepherds can feed and eat. And he says, no, why should I? Nabal says, no, why should I? Get lost, more or less, in today's language. And because of that, David was so angry, he was going to go and kill all the men in Nabal's family. So when Abigail got wind of that, she decided to give more than enough to David and his troops, and she actually bowed down before him and asked for forgiveness and said, look, she gave her quite a long soliloquy, and David changed his heart and said, okay, because you've shown humility and you're a wise woman, I'm not going to hurt Nabal's family. The thing is that Nabal, he was so arrogant. You know, he was the epitome of narcissism. You know, wants everything his own way, doesn't care about anybody, no empathy, no, you know, just mean. Just a mean-spirited person. So what happened is that when Abigail tells him what she's done, he's humiliated. He feels embarrassed. And it's more or less, oh my God, you've betrayed me. You know, I'm not going to speak to you. And when they say, you know, his heart went like stone, I was wondering if that was grey rocking, whether it was stonewalling, whether he decided, you know, he was just going to not speak to her, just be cold. A lot of narcissists do that. When you do something that they don't like, or you defy them, they bring over this really cold and heartless demeanour, and it's quite cutting. And what they'll do is they'll make it look like they are friendly or polite or cordial, but you can sense that they've cut you off, and that is what they call stonewalling. So that's what Nabal did to Abigail. But what did God do? God struck him dead after 10 days. So God didn't approve of his behaviour before and after what Abigail did, but he did support Abigail. So to love as Jesus loved means the husband focuses primarily on his wife's needs. If a husband is not showing Christ-like qualities, then it's not necessary. So while we are encouraged to put the needs of our spouse before our own needs, it is not the case if our spouses are abusive. And that's not just physical abuse. Some people think it's just physical abuse. It's emotional and psychological abuse as well, which narcissists are experts at. So God does give husbands a sobering position of trust in their families to be heads of household. However, this role should be taken seriously by husbands and not abused. Abigail's story gives us a precedent that when a husband is abusive, it is acceptable not to submit to him. Wives do not need to submit to their husbands if their husbands walk in the flesh and do what God hates, which is haughty eyes, arrogance, conceited, boastful, a lying tongue, whether it's by omission or distortion, by shedding innocent blood. That could be domestic abuse. It's not always murder. Devises wicked schemes. That's manipulation, gaslighting, goading. Feet that make haste to run to evil. And false witnesses, lying on someone. Sows discord amongst brothers. You know, those ones that, you know, they make up stories and they talk ill of people, even whether it's true or not. That's Proverbs 6:16-19. Does not provide for his family, but and it says, Timothy 1:5-8, if a man does not provide for his relatives, and especially members of his household, he has denied the faith and is worse than an unbeliever. Also, if your spouse is unteachable, it says, do you see a man who is unteachable and wise in his own eyes and full of self-conceit? There is more hope for a fool than for him. 1 Samuel 25:33-35 will tell you about the Nabal and Abigail story if you're interested. When husbands are not representing God, they're not representing God to their wives and children either, and therefore wives are not required to submit to them. God supports Abigail in her actions and words against Nabal. When Abigail told her husband how generous and humble she was to David, Nabal's heart turned to stone. And like I said, he started disengaging. It could have been a heart attack, but basically, I've got a funny feeling it was stonewalling. God struck him dead after 10 days. So all I'm saying is that you have to put these things into perspective. You don't just willy-nilly submit to your husband when your husband is not obeying God's law. And so I hope this makes sense. I am the Christian Relationship Counsellor. You can find me on YouTube. If you do, please subscribe and share. And I think that's all I'm going to say for now, because the video and my 10 minutes is almost up.